Toonami Studios.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and in this video we are talking about something that I'm pretty sure I pitched when I did my initial review of Superman Man of Tomorrow, an incredibly cool animated movie that came out a little while ago. I think last month it came out. I talked about what are some other properties from DC Comics I would love to see in this style, because I think there's a lot of great ideas here that you could take to some very compelling angles. I mentioned in the review, I think it's a lot like the Max Fleischer cartoon from back in the 40s and stuff. It has that really pristine style while still feeling timeless. So I was like, oh, I could probably think of a couple characters or a couple teams in here that I'd love to see in that style. But my initial reaction was, I don't want to pick a Batman or a Green Lantern or, those ones that already have cartoons and movies and animated movies about them. I wanted to go for some of the more obscure characters, and not even obscure, just some of the characters that's just a little bit different than what you'd be expecting to see in an animated property. So I was like, I got 8 topics here. They're not all single characters like Superman. Some of them are teams, some of them are team ups and that kind of stuff, but I think it's just kind of a fun idea and something we could have fun exploring, because this is kind of where I'm not a huge... I don't know a lot about... Okay, let's put it this way. I don't know a lot about old school DC Comics. I know enough, or probably more than the average person, but there's certain things that I'm just like, that's cool, I want to know more about that. And some of those are properties I did pick for this animated movie that I think, oh, these are kind of cool, I'd love to see more from them. And I just hope we could see something interesting happen with those. So without further ado, here are the 8 characters / teams I picked for an animated movie in the vein of Superman Man of Tomorrow. And we're going to start with one I'm calling the War movie. This is taking all those classic war characters that DC is known for having, because if you guys aren't familiar, back in the 50s and 60s, war comics were pretty big. People loved them, and there was just something about oh, we got to protect the troops or just support them in a way. So comics were all about that. And I'm going to call this one Sergeant Rock, because I think that would be your character that you start with that people could gravitate to, and he'd be your lead focus. But I'm yeah, put them all in there, put Good Company in there, and you could put even the Unknown Soldier, who would be a really compelling character to see in this area too. Just because Sergeant Rock, he's he's your character, right? He is the military man who's going to go in, be the hero, everyone's going to respect him. Unknown Soldier could maybe be an adversary and somebody he doesn't really know or he doesn't really trust, and that could be an interesting counterback to see oh, here's somebody doing more shady things in the war, as opposed to Sergeant Rock, who's your straight up military guy going in, doing what needs to be done. So I thought that could be kind of fun. A really, this style of animation for Man of Tomorrow really lends itself to those classic stories and those timeless feeling stories. And what's more timeless than a country at war? Because a country is always at war, isn't it? So I don't know. I thought that could be really fun. I was also just thinking, so we got Sergeant Rock, we got the Unknown Soldier. Let's throw the Blackhawks in there too. We could get some of the aerial combat with the Blackhawks. That could be a really fun and interesting thing that I don't really expect a lot of people would be upset with, because come on, it's a war piece, it's a period piece, you cover all the bases, and it could be a really fun thing. So I'm just going to call it the Sergeant Rock movie featuring Unknown Soldier and the Blackhawks, because that's kind of an interesting idea I think a lot of people would enjoy. Now my next couple here are very heavy in that classic science fiction era of DC, and that first one is the Challengers of the Unknown. I do not know a lot about these characters. I haven't read a single comic book with them in it. But what I do know about them, I know from... I guess I have read a comic book with them, and I haven't read a title book called Challengers of the Unknown. I know them from Darwin Cook's The New Frontier, and they're just that timeless, oh, there's that space age, kind of that, I want to say that Johnny Quest kind of feel, where there's this team of people, they could do some really cool adventures and have fun there. It's really lesser known characters that they've been referenced here and there in modern DC stuff, but giving them a moment like this could be a really cool thing to see. And it would be very enjoyable, very unique, kind of your Fantastic Four feeling, where you could go into space, have some really interesting adventures, very cosmic, very grounded too, because they're a bunch of friends, right? This is a group of people that you could relate to and have fun with. And it could take you to different corners of the DC universe I don't think everybody would be expecting, and that's something that's always a positive, something that's always very fun, something that I think we kind of need to see, because we've seen the Superman stories. We've seen them with Lobo, we've seen the Martian Manhunter stuff. Let's do some different cosmic things that we haven't really seen before. So that's why I picked Challengers of the Unknown. And that is also why I picked Adam Strange to lead one, because he's been up in play here pretty well right now in DC, of course, with the Tom King book and everything. but he just gives off that classic, I think more than any other character in DC Comics. He just gives off that air of like Flash Gordon or Buck Rogers, where he just has that classic universal looking suit that could be from anything. It's not exclusive to DC. It just has that timeless classic science fiction feel. There's a great story there, kind of John Carter-y, where he gets sent back to Earth and he gets sent to Rann. You could have a really fun story with there. You don't even have to go as dark as Tom King is doing. You could just be like, oh, sometimes he's on Earth and he's like, I gotta get back and help Rann fight. That could be a really fun story. Look really great in that animation, guys. I am telling you, there's something just vintage and classic about the way that Man of Tomorrow looked. So just having that kind of style in there too, I think it'd be really cool, really gorgeous. I would totally be on board with that. And I do have another one that's that classic science fiction feeling stuff, and that is the Legion of Superheroes. Now, I think this would be a great animated series. I know we had one Legion of Superheroes animated series, but this is the perfect DC property, in my honest opinion. The perfect DC property to make into an animated TV show. Something that should have been on DC Universe, maybe one that could go to HBO Max. Like, this is just, here's a bunch of characters, you can have fun. It could either be very serious, or it could be what they do in a vein of like Rick and Morty or Star Trek Lower Decks. I think this is the property you could do that stuff with, because there's just so many interesting and bizarre characters. But I think you'd have that classic science fiction feel with these guys, those bright, colorful suits that would work really well in the Man of Tomorrow style of animation, and you could have a lot of fun there. Maybe even a young Superman could show up, and we could kind of tie it in that way, like this Superman goes to that future, and maybe it's called Superman and the Legion of Superheroes. But I think just having all those classic Legion characters, it could be really fun. We could explore a lot of interesting opportunities with them. So I had to put them on my list. They're just such a unique group of characters that fit perfectly for an animated movie or an animated series. So of course they're going to be here, because I love that vintage feeling. I love vintage science fiction. You guys are going to be hearing a lot more about vintage science fiction on this channel once I get my new studio set up. There's going to be a huge show and a huge push for science fiction stuff on this channel. But I think better than Marvel, DC has this classic science fiction like feeling, you know, the Challengers, even Superman's that classic science fiction character. There's just something about them just feels so cool and unique, and Legion just like amplifies that. It might be in the future where those characters are timeless. So we got some more to talk about, one of them being a character who I love, and I'm surprised we haven't got any other properties with him really, Animal Man. I mean, how awesome would it be to see an Animal Man movie in live action? I think that'd be really cool, but I put it on this list just because I desperately want an Animal Man movie in any regards. Like, the character could easily, in my honest opinion, he could be a top tier character at DC if they just gave him the right push, because he could do the family side. You put his kids and his wife in there, you could have that angle. The environmental impact, like what does it mean? How does he do that? Maybe like there's some animal cruelty things he's dealing with. There's a very timeless feel about his character too. And he'd look so cool in this style of animation. Like, just, I can't even imagine some of the cool antics they could get into, taking him to some weird places around the world. Like, what's he up to? What's he doing? Where is he? What animals is he around? What kind of universe is he a part of now? This guy's just great. I really think everyone should read some classic Animal Man comic books, because this character is fantastic. And you will agree with me that he deserves a bigger push at DC just because he's so cool. And another one here, I put these people on my list just because I know they are really important to a lot of people. I, for one, can't really think of a book of theirs or even a property of theirs where I'm like, I desperately love them. That is the Wonder Twins. The Wonder Twins kind of fall into that category for me of like, everyone knows who they are. Like, you could make a Wonder Twins reference and people will get it, but not everybody cares enough to like put them to the next spot, you know? They're like Adam Strange in my opinion in that regard. Like, you could pick out Adam Strange in a lineup, but not everyone could be able to tell you what they do exactly. And I think they're just the right kind of characters for the new generation of DC fans, you know? Because there's not the baggage of like the Teen Titans or Young Justice or like all these characters who are like, you know, legacy characters, or how is this character connected to there? Why is this person using this moniker? Which one of them is Aqualad? Why is Garth not Aqualad? You know, which Robin is which Robin? There's not that. They're just these two brother and sister combo, right? And they can just turn into various things and fight crime. There's something very timeless about that, something very vintage about that, and something that just screams youth will enjoy it, classic fans will enjoy it, and it's a very cool property. The Wonder Twins is one I actually am amazed it hasn't got the push to be released again. It's like Animal Man. Like, these are two characters and two properties, Animal Man and Wonder Twins, that a lot of fans know and love. How come we're not seeing that love in the modern continuity? I know Mark Russell's currently writing a Wonder Twins book, or he's finished it recently, but I want more. I want more. So my last two are a little bit more, not the science fiction or the war epics. These ones I think are a little bit more grounded in reality in a sense. Because I also wanted to find, one of the things I think would be really cool in this style too is like that classic detective noir, your Maltese Falcon kind of feeling thing, you know? Or even Chinatown for a lack of a better one. I think just that kind of feel would be really cool. So I was like, what about a question movie? But I didn't know which question to do. Do you do Vic? Do you do Renee? Well, why not do both of them? You could tell a story maybe where Renee's kind of tracking down this, maybe a criminal empire or something, where she's a detective and she runs into Vic, and suddenly it becomes a story of passing on the mantle from Vic to Renee. These are two characters. I'm just looking at my list now. I'm just like, I got a lot of these characters that are so cool and a lot of fans like, but they desperately need their push. Like, I liked Renee for the most part in Birds of Prey, but that's not really the Renee Montoya I want going forward in my DC movies. Give me the cool, snarky Renee Montoya from the comics, trying to figure out like this hard-boiled detective case, where it takes her, and maybe how she's opposed to the way Vic is doing stuff because he's a conspiracy theorist guy all over the board, not really sure how to react to any situation. You can't really trust him. But in the end, you have these two solving this intense case, and they learn to work together, and then maybe she becomes the question. I think that could be a really fun story, really interesting stuff. And these characters are fantastic. They're just so cool, so unique, and I think that style would be really well. You could get a great voice for both of them, because if you're not going to be seeing Vic's face for a long time, you have to have that incredible voice. So I think that'd be really fun. And that leads into my last one, which is a straight-up Birds of Prey property. I'm not talking about the Harley Quinn and Birds of Prey movie. As much as I love that movie, and I really do love that movie, I'm talking you get Dinah, you get Barbara, you get your classic Birds of Prey team in here. You could get Blackhawk, tie it back to the Sergeant Rock movie, get Lady Blackhawk in here. Have those classic female characters that we all know and love from the Gail Simone run of Birds of Prey, and just make that a movie. That's what that movie desperately needed to be. But since we're probably not going to get that in live action now, you can do it here in animation. They look so fluid, so beautiful, so classic in this style. And I think a lot of people will enjoy it. So we should really work towards doing that and having fun in that regards with Birds of Prey. I still like that movie, but this would be a lot cooler and a lot more interesting. So I think this was really fun to talk about because we opened up the door to a lot of unique characters in the DC universe that not a lot of people know about. And because Man of Tomorrow was just cool property, it did a lot of great animation stuff, opened the doors to a lot of possibilities for space, for Justice League stuff, we could start to be seeing these different things trickling out. They don't have to be in this universe, but it could just be fun to explore other areas of the DC comic universe on this animated scale. So I really like the animation style. I think everyone should go watch Man of Tomorrow. If you haven't, it is well worth it because there's something so classic about that style. And what did you think of my picks? Who here knows who the challengers of the unknown are? You get a gold star. If you could tell me you know who the challengers of the unknown are in the comments, I will give you a heart on the comment because I care so much. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Have fun, stay safe, good luck, party on, dudes.